Hi, I'm Julie Collins, author of Decorating and Paint Technique books. And today's project, I'm going to show you how to achieve this Oriental lacquer look. I got this dresser for £50 because somebody had painted it in white gloss over the original black. So I'm going to show you how to achieve the lacquer look, the gold around the edges, and then you'll end up with a beautiful Oriental cupboard that's worth hundreds of pounds and beautiful to look at. So carrying on with our Oriental lacquer furniture, this is the same story. Somebody bought a pair of bedside cupboards. They've tried to paint them in an emulsion with a roller and given up and then sold them on. I got the pair for £10. They are absolutely perfect to do a lacquer finish on and look Oriental with all the filigree carving here. So I've had to, with a more abrasive paper, give it a really good sand first where there were lumpy bits of paint or flaky bits of paint. And then I've gone over it with a finer wet and dry and then just wiped it over with a cloth. So the beauty of using chalk paint is that it paints over anything. So you don't have to strip the piece of furniture like you think you might have to. It paints over gloss, it paints over emulsion. It's absolutely fantastic. So this is what we need for this project. Some chalk paint or some furniture paint. I've got charcoal grey, but you can get black, red, or the Oriental colours. You need a wax, a dark finish, because we want to age it up afterwards, and the lacquer wax. So look that up, lots of people. All these things are sold now in general DIY stores. We need a gold paint. This one's absolutely brilliant. It's a powder you mix in with an oil solution, or you can get a wax, a gilding wax. And your paint brushes, just a nylon bristle, really soft. Make sure it's not too thick, nice and thin. And then you'll just need your smaller ones for the filigree, and we'll need a fine one just to do the edgings with the paint. And you're all set to go, guys. Step 3, really simple. I'm going to paint the cupboard. Okay, make sure that you pay attention to loaded corners. So always feather your corners off. Check them from one side, check them to the other side. And then remember, the chalk paint's absolutely brilliant. Goes on over everything. So I started off with my smaller brush, and I'm going to address the filigree bit across the front. Just draw it across it first. So if you wanted a distressed look on the cupboard, you could leave the top carved bit like that. And you would just take the paint over the carving. And just remember, while you're painting, don't load your edges. I'm going to take the smaller brush, go right in between and behind. So make sure you've got a decent amount of paint on your brush. And you can see how easily the chalk paint, the furniture paint, goes on over your piece of furniture. Take the drawers out, put them to one side, paint them separately. Same thing, watch those edges all around the carving. Leave it to dry. Give it a light sand with a fine wet and dry in between. And then go in for your second coat. For our next stage, we're just going to sand the piece of furniture. So you just need the finest black wet and dry sandpaper. You're going to keep it dry. And then just tear yourself off, make yourself a small square, or you can fold it around a block. And all you're going to do in the line of your paint is to sand up and down. So you'll see that it changes colour. That's fine, that's quite normal. And we're just taking off any lumps, any uneven surfaces. And it's called chalk paint because it's going to come up super, super smooth to touch, just like chalk. It's also called chalk paint because you'll see that a little powdery comes off when you're sanding. So you'll probably see that better on the drawer. So then don't worry about that, that's quite normal. So you'll see a little chalk powder like this. So be very careful around all your edges on the drawers. And don't worry if you take a little bit too much off. We can just patch that up with a little piece of paint and then sand over it lightly again before we do our next stage with the wax. The last step, putting the wax on. This is called a rubber in the trade. It's a cotton, lint-free, oil-free cloth, and you keep it in a plastic bag in between working, and that keeps the cloth nice and moist, and the wax goes on much better, and you can use it for a long time. So we're going to get our wax, dark chalk finish lacquer wax. We want the lacquer for the high sheen that Oriental furniture has. And then we're going to have a wax, a gold one. You can get lots of different colors. This is Chantilly. That's going to be our last stage over the dark wax. And if you've got the powder gold paint, you're going to put that on as the last stage as well. So taking our wax, make a really nice pad with your cloth. Put a nice generous amount of the wax on your cloth and then start to work it into the piece. You just want to work it in so that you can't see any matte brush strokes. Remember, we've got our lovely smooth finish from sanding it off with the wet and dry. You're going to have light and dark patches. That's great, we want those. That gives some depth and texture to the furniture. And if you're worried that, oh, I can see cloth marks and stripes, those are all going to dry in even at the end, okay? So all we're going to do, cover the whole piece of furniture with the dark lacquer chalk wax. And then, so just remember with your drawer, you've got carving, architraves around the edge. So just like with your finger, dig in, make sure that you get the wax on the whole surface. And then when you finish doing that, we'll go on to putting on the gold and buffing up for that beautiful lacquer sheen at the end. Final stage, gilt wax or gold paint. All you do is dip your thumb in the wax and then just pull it down the edges of the furniture. I use this a lot, I really love it. Oriental furniture had gold edges on around the edges, on all the carvings. So this front carving is absolutely perfect to pull the gold onto the top. I have really good fun. And the carving on the top, absolutely perfect. We're just going to take our finger along the raised bits of the carving, pick out the shapes, highlight it. Okay, you're going to go along the bottom rim and you're going to go along the top corner of the furniture. When you get to the drawers, do the inside architrave and the outside architrave. If you're going to use your gold powder paint, you need a lot more skill and a very steady hand. You'll put your paint onto the brush, but it's really, really shiny and luminous and beautiful. And you're just going to pull it along your edges, the same as you do the gilt wax. Now, the gilt wax is your easier option. Depends what you've got in your cupboard or what's available to buy. And I'll see you for the buffing, the final stage. Last stage, buffing. We've let the wax go off so it's not tacky to touch. Just cut up an old t-shirt, they're brilliant for buffing. Some people have a buffing attachment on their drill, so have a look if you have that. All you're going to do is make a nice padded cloth and just work into the surface of the wax. And you'll see that beautiful high sheen start to come. There you can see the reflection of the high lacquer here on the top. That's why we want the lacquer wax. Absolutely beautiful. And wow, look how far our piece has come. If you want to join me again, we can do another piece out of one of my books. And we can add a stencil to our lacquer look and personalize your piece even more. I'm just going to lift up the original cupboard. And there's our transformation complete. Thanks for joining me. See you again, guys. Bye.